us virtually. Rachel, if you're still there.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
We can see you. And I know
Fantastic.
we did have some technical difficulties in the last program with or in the
Okay,
last Q&A. So hopefully we have those covered now. But
cool.
why don't we just start very simply by having y'all introduce yourselves and your project, and then we'll start talking about them. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ana Hidiachian. I am the maker director of Domestic Demon, so the penultimate film in the block we just watched.
I'm Ian Joseph Green, and I made a documentary, the black and white one.
Rachel?
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel and I'm the director of Independence.
Thank you. So I guess I'll just open it up with like a question that maybe you can each address if that's okay. And then we'll see what comments and questions we have out there for you all. So I guess I would love to just hear what each of you might have to say about vulnerability and erasure, because I think that's a really sort of clear connection for me, especially this time watching the program in the room here. So maybe how you feel about that in terms of the project that we just watched.
So I definitely see the thread of vulnerability through all the films and the ways in which, as was said in Rachel's film, these man-made structures limit and confine and oppress all the different characters that we saw throughout all the different projects. I also was really struck by the immense vulnerability required by all of the filmmakers and also their subjects to make the films that we just watched. And I have found with my film Domestic Demon, which I would say is my most vulnerable work I've ever made, that it has allowed me to make the most connection and to kind of reach out from the screen to an audience and connect with people who can relate to or with whom my film's concepts resonate. And so I've learned that lesson that I've heard many other people impart in the past, which is the personal is political, and the more personal a work is, the more powerful it could be.
I've been struggling with anxiety for since I was 20. I'm pushing 50 now, but I didn't realize that's what it was. So it's kind of like I just found out 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, so I wasn't dying pretty regularly. It was just in my brain. So in the past couple of years, while trying to deal with that through medication, a lot of my work started taking on that theme. This project documentary wasn't originally intended to do that, but because it's constantly on my brain, because I have to be very wary of where I go, or it's gonna ruin the rest of my night. I started the project as I knew it was gonna I was challenged by a classmate to make something beautiful, and that's where I started with that. And then the stars are in the back. Sorry, I moved the mic. The stars are right in the back. I just asked her a bunch of random, none of the questions, there was no logical thread to it. And with the idea that I was going to break it down and make my own abstract narrative. And this is when the Epstein files, when they're about to release them, which we all know what happened there. So I found what to me felt like a narrative about rich people eating babies. So I don't know, like that was like the major like freaking out thing in my brain at the time, and it just happened to turn out that way. Yeah.
Rachel? I think you might be muted or we can't hear you.
I think you might have muted me. Yeah. Just to quickly say, I'm calling from my phone and it's 2 a.m. here. So I just wanted to say I'm really sorry. I can't quite see you so well. But thank you so much for having me. And I loved everyone's film. I was really impressed by all of them. Just to speak from on my behalf, I think vulnerability might be relevant to the film I made, because I think with vulnerability there's a call for some accountability, I think, and shared accountability. And in relation to erasure, I'm not sure actually, but it's definitely really relevant. I guess the film I made was quite interested in the point at which something becomes invisible, or becomes not visible. So yeah, thanks for the question.
The erasure part. Thanks for reminding us of that, Rachel. Can I speak to that for a sec? Sure. Well, it makes me think of your film, first of all the ways in which the image was morphing. And first of all, I want to ask you how you did that, but also, yeah, what I was watching was not ultimately the story that you were telling. And now that you've shared that you have anxiety, I felt that anxiousness actually in the way that things were morphing. And so even though you were erasing certain things, you were also bringing other things in. And in my case with Domestic Demon, the film is about my experience of becoming a mom for the first time and feeling like I was about to disappear. That in order to create life, I had to lose my own. And across all these projects, I think that erasure exists in the labor of being. I'm thinking of the project, whose name I'm sorry, I've already forgotten, but about all of the mothers who silently work in China, and how they're basically invisible. That first of all resonated with me a lot, but I think across the board, we're seeing examples of people who feel forgotten by society at some point, for some reason, who are just very much there. So thanks for reminding me of that, Rachel. I'm pointing to you. I know that I'm not facing you in your angle.
Yeah, it's strange. Any questions or comments for any of these folks?
Can I ask you how you made those glitches happen?
For sure. It's a process. I was in a class called AI Remix
I had a feeling.
in the fall. I'm an animator. So like frame by frame is my thing. I broke down 24 frame per second footage down into 10. And then I randomly picked spots and generative filled them. Mm. And then I used an interpolation. This is probably boring to a lot of y'all.
I don't think so.
An interpolation program that like bumps up the frame rate. And then I slowed that. So it's glitching AI basically. And I did the same with the audio. I just pushed the fixers, and then I used the automatic subtitle generator, and it gave me like the weirdest. So I just went through and like changed some for clarity and left stuff in for like humor purposes. Yeah. So
wow, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, they're going to bring you a mic, so so that.
Thank you. I have a question for Ian Green. Years ago, when I used to visit you when you lived underneath the Tenderloin in San Francisco, Did any of that era like affect the way that you filmed it, like black and white, or any of that? The effects. Did any of that come up when you did that?
I don't really remember that era.
I barely do.
Question for Ian. What was she talking about in all those stories?
I asked her to explain the plot of her favorite movie, which is Dirty Dancing, in detail, her least favorite food, a quick like introduction to herself. Those were the three main ones that I used, and then a memorable adventure that she'd been on.
Cool, thank you.
Mhm.
I loved it, by the way.
Thank
All
you.
of them.
Hi, thank you so much for all your films. I found them so distinct and just really inspiring. So I think all of the films have an unconventional form or structure. There's like specific techniques to each that I think lends to its overall message. So I think I would love to learn a bit more about your process and when did the form start to come together? Whether it's the long one take or walking in someone's shoes or like the shadows, like even the stop motion, like when were these choices, when did they come, like was it at the beginning, was it in the end? Yeah, just interested in where the form and concept kind of intersected.
Maybe we can start with Rachel since Rachel keeps going last.
Great idea.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I guess I tried to make a film which was led by the form. So the point, I guess, the point of the film from an aesthetic point of view is to partially to try and not reproduce the invasive interview process that the three participants had to go through in order to get disability benefits, and the kind of evidentiary gaze. So it was trying to avoid a kind of the realist format that documentary has often historically takes. And I tried to use sort of imagery that was speculative or could provoke imagination or empathy. And yeah, the interviews were like happened over a few sittings and were a kind of free association. And like during those interviews, I asked people like how they felt that that their experience could be represented, and we were just sort of throwing out ideas, and but always with the kind of guys that there wouldn't ever be a direct representation of what they were describing. And yeah, so with Libby, she talked about the kind of the fact that she relied on this medication or these nutritional drinks that couldn't be prescribed on the healthcare system in the UK, and that actually she relied on private companies, and that there was a business in that. So I tried to show like a broad. So I've got a friend who saw the videos, an Amazon worker. So I asked him if we could film his day at work to kind of show the broader system that was producing disability in that context, and profiting from it. With Shabaz's imagery, he kind of wanted to return the gaze, so we decided to kind of like put the camera back on the kind of administrative worker, but also show them at work. And this was the process. So the same with Chris. It was about. I realise I'm rambling a bit now, but yeah, and then the narrator as well was, that was an attempt at kind of bringing a sense of accountability of the narrator and the positionality of the narrator into the form. So yeah, I hope that's a attempt at that question.
Thank you.
So in my case with Domestic Demon, that film started off as just two lists of images. Well, first of all, it started off with certain constraints. So at that point, I had a almost 3-year-old child, and I needed to make something that would not disrupt what was really important to me, which was my ability to parent. And so I also was in a situation, as was my cinematographer and many of our peers, especially in Los Angeles, where we were dealing with a huge contraction that's still ongoing in the film industry out there. And so we were trying to find ways to make work when there wasn't paid work. And so I thought, okay, why don't I make something that involves very few people starring me in my own house? And so that is what you saw. It was shot by myself and my cinematographer and nobody else in my own house. And in terms of thinking about subject matter that I could convincingly play, I thought about, well, what have I known in the last couple of years? And that had been my first experience of motherhood, that in the context of a lockdown. My son was born at the height of the Delta Omicron surge of 2021. But also I experienced severe postpartum depression, something that doesn't get talked about enough ever. So I thought, cool, let me talk about all these things. And so the images that I came up with were a list of macro shots and a list of shadows and silhouettes. The shadow idea came to me from two sources. One was a painting I was really inspired by, and another by a California artist, and another was my own shadow with my breast pump attached to me in the blazing California sun, which was really at the beginning of the postpartum depression settling in, and how fascinated I was by how I looked like a cyborg. So I just accessed things that were already available to me, and my cinematographer, who I'd fortunately worked with before and knew to trust me, came in, and we just kind of started shooting different things. A full day of macros, like, okay, let's shoot a lot of textures really close up so the audience doesn't really know what they're looking at. And another day of shadow and silhouette. And I wasn't sure how it was all going to come together until 6 months later. I just didn't touch any of it, and decided to write some narration in Armenian, which is the language that I grew up being mothered in, and it's the language I'm mothering my child in. And the specific dialect that you hear is an endangered language, considered an endangered language. So I felt pretty endangered as a first-time mom experiencing PPD, so I thought that would lend itself well. So again, accessing what I already had. And then I didn't touch it for a while, basically another 6 months later, when I did away with 90% of what I'd written and came up with those 10 or so lines that you read, in this case, on screen, and decided to fully embrace the idea that this was not just about a woman, but it was about me. So the sound was very much one of the final pieces of the puzzle, and I knew that it was very important that it be a very rich, like, sonic landscape, because I was trying to evoke for the viewer that feeling of being stuck in your house for whatever reason. It could be lockdown, it could be parenthood, it could be disability, it could be anything really, and starting to see things and hear things that may or may not be there.
That just makes me think, just to interject before Ian answers, there's a sound piece by an artist in Denver, and her name is escaping me. I'll tell you later when it comes back to me, who did like a piece based on like the fact that women using breast pumps often think they're hearing like chants come through. And so, because you're using them at night, you're sleep deprived, like your state is open and flexible, maybe in a new way.
And you're hearing phantom cries. You think
And
your
you're
baby's
hearing
crying.
phantoms, and then
They're not.
And so like there's all this, like she collected all these questions and comments from mothers like on forums for these breast pumps, being like, no, you've definitely put like, you've hidden some sounds in there and I can hear it. And so she collected those and did this really beautiful like sound collage with with breast pumps and those comments. But anyway,
Please
made me
remember
think
the
of that.
name. I'd love
Yeah,
to
I
look
will.
that up.
I'll try. Okay, Ian. Sorry.
I think I answered a lot of it. I came up with the technique in the remix class, and then I moved the next semester. I went to Luis's class, and his like semester long project was pretty wide open, and it choked me up for a minute. So I thought I would like explore more with the one that I'd already done. And I originally went out, I contacted some roller derby girls, and they set it up to where I could film one of their matches and then interview one of them. But my contact was like on the team, and they didn't really respond while I was there. So I had to, because they're busy roller derbying. I shifted gears. Thomas, that works at the school, introduced me to his wife, and that's how I got to where it is now.
We probably have time for one more question if anyone else, or comment, if anyone wants to share anything or ask anything. Okay, we'll keep talking. Oh, yes, did you have something else?
Yeah, it's just a quick question. What is on the domestic demon film, was the shot of the cat or dog paw at the end intentional? I mean,
That's
obviously
such an
all was,
interesting
but
question. So some of the shots were in that those lists I mentioned, and others were caught on the fly. That paw is my dog's paw, and was just a moment that my DP was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm just going to shoot down at the dog's foot," and it was like a very short clip, but it made it into the cut. And the same goes for the dead bird. So that was a real dead bird that happened to show up on the driveway the morning of our first shoot. And we just followed our instinct to film it, not really knowing what to do. The shot right before it is an extreme macro shot of the bird's wing. So my DP spent a lot of time filming the dead bird. And it's a good thing we did, because when we emerged out of the house after hours of shooting the other macros under a big light, the bird was gone. So some kind of animal had probably come and taken it. So there's a lot of spontaneity there as well, which is how I generally like to work. And for a while leading up to the making of that, I'd been making a lot of commercial work that required a bit more structure. So I really enjoyed kind of returning to my roots of just going with the flow. So that's where the dog shot came in. And same with the shot of the main title card, which is the upside down roof of the house. That was just a roof line that my DP wanted to film. And then later in the edit, I was like, let's flip that upside down. And I think it kind of captured that upside down feeling of the suburban mom. Thanks.
thank you. The feelings in all the films and all of you guys did an amazing job, all of them. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. There's one more program today at 8 p.m., by the way, and it is a premiere of In Love and Memory. So come back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.